The Walking Dead just aired its season 9 mid-season finale, and what an episode it was. We're going to go into full spoilers. I'm Terry Schwartz. This is Laura Prudhomme, and I have to say, I really loved this episode.
Yeah, it was actually good. I know that sounds surprising, but it's been hit and miss part of this season. I feel like since Rick's exit, it's actually felt like a new show. It's felt reinvigorated, and you're really starting to see the horror come back to the show.
I think that was the thing that I liked the most about this episode. Like, there were a lot of really great character moments, but basically the third act, as they get into that like spooky graveyard, whatever night sequence, I think you really nailed it. Like, it's zombie horror again in a way that the show hasn't felt for a while, because there hasn't been such a question mark of a threat like the Whispers in seasons.
Yeah, there's the mystery still, and I'm glad that we finally get an answer after a few episodes at least of teasing what the Whisperers are. We finally get not a great look at them, but our most overt look yet.
So I think this is interesting because the Whisperers as a character, group, the audience knows from the comics. I think probably a lot of our audience is at least familiar with them and what they are, even if they haven't read the comics. But the show totally plays it like it is this mystery that's unfolding, because a chunk of the audience at least won't be aware of them. And even knowing what was coming, I loved the way that they played that out in this episode. Like, the episode is called Evolution, and it has that question of the characters wondering and speculating. Like,
what has happened to these walkers?
Is this an evolution?
Evolving?
Exactly. So what did you think about sort of the way that Eugene was speculating on what they were, and then eventually the reveal at the end, and how they showed what they were?
I think it's perfect because, these guys have been through so much at this point that there's really not a lot that should scare them. So to see Eugene and Rosita being so terrified by whatever this is, you really actually do feel the dread yourself. You're like, oh my God, even knowing what we know, it's like waiting for them to find out about it, and then it culminating in such a brutal way. You're like, this was worth the build-up.
Absolutely. And that's sort of like a question in the past couple episodes too. Did Rosita know? Did Eugene know? And I didn't even really think about it until this episode when Rosita wakes up and she's like, oh my God, no, they don't know what they're dealing with. Obviously, we're really praising this episode, but it did cause the death of a surprising lead character.
Right, Jesus is still alive in the comics, I believe. So to have him go was completely unexpected, I think, for comic book fans who've been kind of, having guesses about who might be the first casualty. I don't think anyone expected that, and I think that's the right way to go for the show, to kind of give us that curveball, so we may know something about what the Whisperers are going to do, but we clearly don't know everything. It's not going to be beat for beat.
I am bummed about the fact that we never got Jesus to really have another storyline, and that even the way they were building up to what he was doing and his presence here in the back half of the season as sort of like the de facto leader of Hilltop, it seems pretty obvious that Tara will take over in his stead. Maybe this will be a thing that prompts Maggie to come back somewhere down the road. But in terms of him being the character who was the casualty, I thought it was a really smart call. And again, sort of in like the it reminded me almost like a play, the way that sequence played out, where Jesus is, of all these characters, the best warrior. They established that last week with Aaron, right? That like he is the main warrior of this group, probably even more so than Michonne.
Yeah, I think it's kind of believed. I think I talked to Tom Payne for the episode, and he was like, Jesus is believed to be the best character, so if he's gonna go, it needs to be like a really big threat that's actually gonna shock people and be like, oh, this is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and I think even as someone who knew who the Whisperers were and assumed when you hear them whispering that they're somewhere in this episode, the way that he's slaying zombies the way you normally would, and then this one spins out. I know, the twist, they spin out, and it's like, oh, of course he would not be prepared for that, and then get stabbed in the back. So smart and effective, and I think also to sort of end on the cliffhanger of, it seems like the Whisperers are swarming back to them, like these people don't know how to respond to this threat. Just really, really strong.
So cool.
Yeah. And so I didn't expect a couple episodes ago to be as excited about this storyline as I am. But there are a couple other big things that I want to talk about from this episode. First of all, I really dug the conversation between Michonne and Carol that we finally got earlier this episode. We've gotten hints throughout this season so far that like something happened to break Alexandria away from Hilltop and Kingdom. But what do you sort of make of this? Do you think that there's more to the story there than like what's sort of on the surface?
Clearly. I mean, it's kind of annoying that they're being so cryptic and teasing it out, and maybe we'll get to see some of it in flashbacks, or maybe it'll have to wait until Lauren Cohan comes back before they like overtly address it. But it's intriguing enough. I'm like, all right, there's some stuff going on there. Michonne and Daryl have those scars on their back that we don't know the origin of. Michonne kind of basically says that it was her fault, but at least they're all alive to hate her for it in this episode. So it's like, ooh, it was something big. I have no clue what it could have been, short of obviously introducing new people to one of the communities and that backfiring, which is why Michonne was so worried about it now. But it's weird to think what could have so greatly smashed them if they'd survived.
And I like this dribble out effect too. Like I don't need flashbacks. I'm okay to sort of have that be like a C storyline basically that's happening in the background. But I will say, as much like I definitely used to ship Daryl and Carol. Like it was nice to have them back together last episode. But I almost was looking forward to this, characters finding each other again of all of them the most. And I really thought that this sequence lived up to my expectations. And then we have to
Beautifully played.
We have to talk about Negan too.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about this. It's been what, like 8 years? If we're to assume he never got out of the cell since when he was put in, I think it's been like 8 or 9 years that this is the first time he's gotten out, which is a big question mark. But also I was like, how? How is that much time?
Like, how is he not a complete basket case, honestly?
Yeah.
Like, even though he kind of, he's like, I have Judith, and like Gabriel comes and like talks to him, I guess, which would make me a basket case, I think. So who knows if that's a good thing or not? But it's interesting, and I think there's something that happens in the comics that comic book readers obviously will know about in terms of Negan. But for the show, I feel like he's not going to go out. I feel like, why would he? Like, I feel like we're going to see him like get to the door, change his mind, and like go back. Because like, what's he gonna do if he gets out surrounded by enemies? Like, they're just gonna put him back in again. Like, he's not gonna be able to escape and pop out over the wall without anyone seeing him. So it's like, what is the benefit of him actually breaking out?
And then I think that's an interesting story turn too, if he does choose to stay, and what that means for a level of trust he could have with these characters. I did realize that, we haven't seen Judith in a couple episodes, and so I would love, once we come back from the mid-season break, probably sometime in February with the back half of the season, which we can assume is very Whispers or even Whispers War focused. I would love to see sort of continued development for that Judith and Negan relationship that we know is replacing the Carl and Negan relationship from the comics, because I think that's really compelling, and I think also smartly they're letting that be sort of a B storyline and something we'll get to farther down the road. So we are really excited to be excited about The Walking Dead again. We hope you are as excited about this episode as we are. So let us know in the comments what you thought of Evolution. Also be sure to let us know what you thought about Jesus' death. Did you like this twist, or are you bummed that this is the end for this character? So let us know in the comments. For plenty more on The Walking Dead, check out our full Whispers Explained breakdown. And then Laura also did an interview with Tom Payne, the actor who plays Jesus. So be sure to check out the highlights from that. The Walking Dead is not going to be back until the new year, but for plenty more TV content, be sure to like and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.